Hi guys, so part 2 I believe this is, and we're going to be working on slug area. So first of all, I edited a lot of footage from one of the drones where I actually went for like a pinky tone, and I didn't like the look of it, so I went with like a grey purpley tone for these blight drones. So the base colours, Vallejo Model Air Black, one of my all-time favourite colours. I use this with my regular brushes as well as my airbrush. It's a fantastic one coat coverage. And the only thing that I had to be a little bit mindful here is I didn't want to get that black sprayed up onto those almost finished armour plates there. But again, the airbrush makes really light work of blocking in large areas of model. Okay, so the black base colours all down. Now I'm going in with, it's a Vallejo Model Air Grey. I can't remember off the top of my head, which I should have had the information to hand, but basically it's a mid-tone grey, so any grey you can get hold of. It doesn't have to be a Model Air colour, and I have to stipulate this throughout this video. The colours that I'm using are not crucial. You use what colour that you prefer. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm building up slowly highlights, so I'm leaving the black in the really extreme recesses of the model and building up with the grey on the raised surfaces, so you'll see those skin folds on the slug there as I'm actually working the highlights up, but the actual creases of those folds I'm avoiding. And that's a really awesome thing with the airbrush. It self blends because of the cone of spray. It actually creates lovely blends if you're actually careful how you actually apply the strokes, if you can call it strokes with the airbrush there. And what you may not be able to tell on camera, and if you've not used an airbrush before, is that I'm dotting the airbrush at different heights and distances to create different different tones. The further I actually bring the airbrusher away when I'm spraying it, the more of a wider blend that I'm getting. The closer you bring it in, the less of a blend, but the more tighter control you get over the actual cone of spray. Right, so after finishing off 2 or 3 different layers of highlight on the actual grey colour of the slug, it's time to go in with some oil washes, and this is one of the cool things about working on this. I let loose with the oil paints. No, I didn't let loose with the points. Well, here I'm mixing like a purpley colour, so it's Vallejo Fancy oil paints, Gundam Blue, and I'm sure there'll be a few anime fans out there that'll recognise the reference in that colour's name. Coagulated blood and black, so I'm trying to create like a purpley tone. And just off the corner of the camera there, I'm adding a little bit more odorless turpentine to the mix. And there I added a little bit too much black. I'm I'm not quite happy with that mix. So starting again, adding more blue, adding a little bit more red. Much nicer colour, but as you can see there, that's almost like a paint. It's too thick for the wash that I need. So again, I'm going to go back in and add some more that turpentine to bring it down to more of a transparent opacity that I want on the slug area of that model. And what I'm doing here is working the wash into the cracks and crevices at first and allowing that to self blend. And also you'll see two bottle lids. One's got turpentine that's got no paint in it, and the other one's got the wash. And what I'll actually do is I'll dip my brush into the clear turpentine from time to time to actually blend the wash back into the surface. So I'm constantly being mindful that the wash is blended into areas that I don't want it to stay collected. And this is to give a bit of more of a three-dimensional and organic feel to the actual overall colour. I mean, you'll see a lot of times with airbrush work, you'll have that telltale airbrush look where it'll be like a cloudy sort of like cloud texture where it's all really soft. The actual overall finish to a miniature. Like this, what I'm doing here is to help break up that sort of telltale airbrush effect. Okay, so now I'm getting on to probably one of my favourite things in working on this model is working with the blood, and who doesn't like painting blood? So we've got the coagulated blood, we've got black, because I think the coagulated blood, although you can use it straight out of the tube there as blood, I think it's a little light in colour. So I wanted to add a little bit of black there and the blue as well, because blood sometimes can look a bit purpley as well in tone, but only a smidgen of that stuff's going to be needed. And the reason I actually put the oils on cardboard as well, there's a good reason for that. Some of the oil paints, I keep saying points, some of the oil paints, when you're actually putting them down, the oil can stay on the surface, and you don't really want to be mixing the oil from the paints into your washes. So the cardboard soaks up the excess oils. You might actually see it on the cardboard there. So when you're actually dipping your brush into the paint, you're not taking all that oil with you as well, which is a good thing. So that's the reason why I put the oil paints on the cardboard, to soak up the excess oils from the paint there. So that's a fairly good colour, but that's a thin wash. What I do create, and I don't think I've got all the footage on camera of this because it'd take too long to show, but as I can show you on the cardboard, I constantly mix different consistencies of blood in thickness and also in opacity and darkness. You don't want one overall tone, because again it wouldn't look as authentic. Well, the one cool thing about working with these oils is it's so easy and simple on the fly to actually change things. Here I'm just going with an overall very low opacity wash, and then as soon as that's dried, I go back into the center area where those cuts are, and I'll add a much deeper and darker wash. And on the real deep, like slashes and cuts, it'll be pretty much like a paste of the oil paint there, with only a smidgen, like you can see that's quite thickly placed in there or glooped in. So that's almost using the oil paints fairly neat there with only a bit of oils. So fiddling with the actual thickness and the consistency with the oils leads to many different effects, I should say. what I'm doing off camera here is I'm dipping the brush back into a clean turpentine and just pulling some of that colour out, so the further the blood gets away from the actual wound, the lower the opacity of the blood. Sorry for a bit of dodgy camera work here, guys. And again, this is fairly thick paint being put into that open wound there. I'm thinning the brush down with a neat turpentine, and I'm going to start drawing this blood out now, you'll see. And you know, you can take these things as far as you want. You can leave it to dry and come back in with another wash on top of that, and so on, really. You can take the effects as far as you want. I mean, I did this very, simplistically, but you can even make it look way better than this. Which, if you wasn't using oils, you'd really struggle to do these sorts of things with traditional acrylic sort of like washes. Okay, so here I'm just showing you some build-up work where I've left all the blood to dry, and I'm just going around selectively picking areas where I want some of the blood to be darker and deeper. So as you can see, it's very simple what I'm doing here, very simple. Anyone can do it. It's just it can take a little bit of a time to start to build up the effects, 2 or 3 different layers of the blood. So it's more sort of like time that it takes to do it, as opposed to the skill involved. It's just a case of working up to the different layers. I mean, you'll see here that I'm still working with really thin down blood. This is probably the 2nd or 3rd layer, and then I'll leave the thicker wash right to the end. Okay, so the cool thing with these oil paints, they leave like a high satin finish, but for the open wounds I wanted to go for a really wet gloss look, again to add just a little bit more texture to the miniature. So in all of the open wounds I use some Vallejo acrylic varnish. Okay, stay tuned for part 3, guys.